Okay. Okay, call the Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order. Roll call. Mayor Rick Scholl, present.
Susan Kahn, present.
Doug Morton.
Jenny Carlson.
Keith Locke.
Okay. Election of officers, chair and a vice chair. Any takers?
I had a question before we do that. I don't remember making the decision.
You spoke first. You should be chair.
No, maybe I'm not remembering the meeting correctly, but we had a conversation and left it undecided whether there'd be community representation on this committee. And so I guess I was under the impression that there would be community representation on this committee more similar to the budget committee and less similar to the same old city council.
I thought it was just going to be the city council.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was optimistic thinking that there would be citizen involvement.
Take a crack at that if you would. So we formed the St. Helens Urban Renewal Agency in 2008. And this is the first meeting since 2008 that we've had.
So you did this when I wasn't watching.
You must have had one in 2017.
Right, that's when I was, yeah, I mean, I was at that meeting, but I thought that I thought there'd be more people. More citizens.
Oh,
involved.
right. Okay, yes. So this is our first kind of action meeting coming into that. So
Okay.
it's all very new. The adopting the plan piece of it, you're right, Al. Yeah, we have
Right.
minutes from that meeting. I stand corrected. So that is a topic that we could look at some point as the agency and it starts to work together. And I think that's where we left it too. So
Okay.
we're going to
Yeah,
go.
we knew there wouldn't be a lot to do the first couple of years, so why wear people out for nothing, I guess, was kind of where we left it, right?
I think tonight's agenda might be a reflection of that. We're looking at improving some minutes and looking at the bylaws and some minor amendments, which are pretty less than exciting.
It's worth noting, too, that the bylaws allow the agency to establish advisory committees to look at a certain
Right.
issue if you do want public input on a certain project or if you're considering amending any certain thing. So the bylaws are flexible for that.
Okay. The processes that have been well received have had more citizen involvement.
Yeah.
And committees would serve that purpose. Advisory committees.
Okay.
I think on the meeting minutes in the third paragraph, I asked that question and it was responded to.
We're still on election of
Yep.
officers.
Right, he's responding to my question.
Oh, okay.
Right. That might clarify that if you read through it quickly.
Thank you.
My question is terms of officers' assignments. Would that term be for 1 year? Would an annual term?
1 year.
Okay.
So the first meeting every year, you elect a new vice chair.
Okay. Right. Open it up to. Let's open it up to anyone who volunteers to want to chair.
Yes.
I guess since I've announced that this is my last year, I'll go ahead and jump in this year to start it off with, if you want.
Any other takers? Anyone else?
And Jenny, you want to be vice chair?
We're not a two-pack, no. If nobody else
Wow.
is interested, I'm happy to help. I'm not declining to help. Before he volunteered, I was going to volunteer Mr. Morton, but since Keith's put his hand up,
I'll pass on that. And,
Okay.
Vice Chair, I'd be interested in, and this isn't by any means a slam on the mayor at all, but it's just is kind of dispersion of running meetings in a
Right.
sense. So
Yeah.
I think you or Susan would fill in very nicely on that opportunity to take an opportunity to lead and chair. So that's my
No slam on me, Doug. That's why when she spoke, I said, "Oh, there's the
It's-
there's the chair."
it's kind of it's kind of like activating other individuals that are
Yeah,
here.
I'm happy to, follow Keith's lead.
Okay.
Well, I think they're the first two that spoke up, and they both want to.
All right.
Well, I
good with
didn't
that.
We're
I'm
not-
okay with
wanted
that.
to.
We're not declining.
I said I would. I said I
If
want.
nominated, I would accept.
Okay, so I nominate Keith Locke as chair.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Keith, it's your meeting.
Okay, we need a vice chair now.
I nominate John Carlson as vice chair.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations.
Oh, boy.
Consent agenda for approval, minutes.
Move we approve consent agenda 3A.
Does this mean you remember that meeting?
No, I was looking through. Trying to refresh my memory.
Will that work?
But I did read through it.
Oh, Laura was here. That's right, she ran the meeting, didn't she?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back here.
Now it's starting to come back to me. Oh God, I made a motion during the thing.
And then I think I asked about, I did Old Portland Road because Al had written an email about that, about infrastructure coming through there and opening up opportunities. It's all coming back to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so,
No, I seconded the motion that Doug made.
so we have a motion.
Oh, wait a minute. I did move. No, then I did. I did
No,
the minutes.
For the minutes, we did it right.
Right.
They're just gathering the minutes right now.
I was back on election.
Right, but we haven't voted on it though.
Yeah.
I believe Doug seconded, right?
What's that?
The minutes, to approve the minutes?
Sure.
Not only can we not remember back to
I
May.
didn't second the
No,
minutes.
Oh.
he did. He didn't. He said, "How do you got that? You remember that last meeting?"
Yeah.
Somebody seconded it, Jenny,
We're back.
and we're on
Oh.
the minutes.
Right. And
And
there
I
is a
haven't
motion, but not a second yet.
Okay. So we have a motion.
Yes.
Are everybody still reading?
I'll second.
Do we need any more time?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna wait then. So Ginny, does this make you in charge of this annual report?
The financial report?
No, the annual report. Says we have to file an annual report to the state. Is that your job?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's financial related.
What's Keith messing with me?
Well, I just wanted to make sure I didn't volunteer for too much here.
So just, but this I can go back.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. But did we have a second?
Yeah. Doug
Yes.
did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How do you want it more time?
Okay, public comment. Anybody want public comment?
Besides the comment that we're disorganized at our first meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mark Kreitzer, 59420 Meadowview Drive, here in St. Helens. I just want to say I'm glad Ms. Carlson brought up the concept of the who's on the Urban Renewal Board. You recognize me. I've been pretty involved with the urban renewal for many years, and I'm still passionate about it. And one of the things that I had mentioned very early on was the makeup of the Urban Renewal Board. I know it's very convenient to have the City Council be the Urban Renewal Board, but that does not represent who's impacted by the urban renewal. And I think that's very key, is that the people of this community that are impacted need to be part of the Urban Renewal Board. And I proposed several months ago that there should be 2 members of the City Council, a member of the County Commission, 2 members of special districts that are involved, and 2 citizens at large. I still believe that is very important for this urban renewal to move forward and to have a good understanding for everybody that's involved, to have a voice in it. Again, I stated that, you know, when it's just the City Council, to me, it's like the fox guard in the hen house. Yes, you have an advisory committee you can appoint, but again, it's advisory. They really have no input except, hey, this is what we think. And again, it comes down to the Urban Renewal Board to say, yeah, we think, or no, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. So again, I would like to reiterate that I believe that the Urban Renewal Board should be made up of people that are impacted by this urban renewal agency and everything that's going to go on in the next 10, 15, 25 years. So with that, thank you very much.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, you may can, ma'am.
I didn't know you. I've seen you in here, and I recognized your face, but didn't remember your name. Have you seen the budget committee before? Where the budget committee is, the council is not in a majority. We are numbered in equal with community members.
Correct.
So that was kind of my vision for this board, is that I wasn't going to go so far as to be specific about who the community members would be, because sometimes people are overextended, sometimes people have their own personal agenda, and that doesn't help anybody either. But I think that having an equal voice is important. At least it is to me, and I know that good outcomes comes when people feel heard. You know, whether it's us or whether it's community members, if they don't feel like we're listening, it doesn't matter what we decide. They're not going to like it because they didn't get to be part of it. So I second your comment.
Yes, I thoroughly agree, and I'm on the board of directors for Columbia River Fire and Rescue, and our budget committee is the same way. 5 board members and 5 citizens at large. I think it's a good avenue for people that are just normal citizens to come in and tell us what they think. But again, I just reiterate that I think the Urban Renewal Board should be made up of, not
More
just
voices.
the city councils. Yeah, more voices. Thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Does your board function that way as well? Do you have more voice on the board? Tell me how you've done that.
In terms of,
Well,
we don't have an urban renewal or any committee.
you just have a budget committee,
Our budget committee is it.
nothing else. Do you have
There's
a
the fire
safety?
board.
Do you have a safety committee? Do
It's
you
an
have a
internal safety
a
committee.
technical committee? Do you have committees that reach out that do certain things, or is it just the board that does that?
It's not the board. We are just the elected officials that oversee the fire chief and policies of the board. The fire chief is responsible for those type of committees, the safety committee, operations committee, and unless it's actual policy, the board doesn't have much say into it. It's the fire chief, that's his job.
So I just want to back up and make certain that I hear you correctly. You would like to see this board, the mimic what Ms. Carlson brought up as the budget committee, using that as an example, and you used it as an example as well. You would like to see it take that format. Is that correct?
I think that is a fair compromise. I think the 5 and 5, if the 5 non-council members represent special districts, citizens, county commissioners, I think that would be make it better, but I think the 5 and 5 would be a good start.
We might want to put that on we might want to consider that for our next, our agenda item for our next meeting.
Additional members.
Well, yeah, we could talk about it
I mean,
as
yeah,
as a discussion
Yeah,
item.
with some weight, like I say, there's not going to be a whole lot in the first couple of years, but it's definitely something that we talked about this before, that we would look at that and see, because we do understand that there's need for it. Saying that, though, I'm a little taken back. We're elected by the people of the whole town, and we have input on everything that goes on in this town. And
From the public, you mean?
from my aspect, I don't give special favors to anybody. That's why I get in trouble all the time. But anyway, just let you know that this position here, we do try and think, and I think right now we probably have one of the best councils we've ever had, because it is so preferred and whatnot. A lot of diversity here. We look at everything. We think about everything. And it isn't just about one thing. It's about the police, the library, the sewers, the streets, everything in the town. So anyway, but there's nothing wrong with letting other people in, because every so often, yes, you do get a great idea, and it makes them feel part of the system too. So
There is a danger of that as well, is how those people will be picked to, and is it weighted? Is it weighted to one concern or another?
Yep.
And I think what Councillor Locke is saying is I don't think in any way, shape, or form this council's weighted any which way. We are diverse. So I just want to tell you that as a concern. But I would like to. I think Ms. Carlson has a good point, and I think you have a good point. I think it's worthy of talking about on an agenda item. So I would like to see with council approval that we put that on an agenda item for discussion.
And maybe to
And give it some consideration.
Councilor Locke's point is, there's not going to be a lot of things intrinsically in these early times, but maybe it's, a targeted invite to community members that are involved when we get to that point, to see where the interest is, rather than just randomly selecting people. Because, how many people have time in their evening to come and bond with us down here? But when it gets to the point where we're actually making decisions and there's actually money to be spent, the input would be valuable.
And I would just like to add to one little thing. I was like you, Mark, thinking, oh, that's too much power for. So there was a law that changed. Urban Renewal's got a bad name because city councils would grab it and they would dole it out to their buddies. But there's laws that have changed, and everything that was discussed in these meetings I stepped in it probably about halfway through, so a year and a half. That money has to be allocated to those areas and those defined chunks is where you have to plug them in. It has to meet that criteria. It cannot waver any way, shape, or form outside of those parameters. Period.
it can, but it has to go through public comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to back up on that, the reason city councils most recently have been involved is that they don't feud with the group that is Urban Renewal, and the plans become more seamless and cohesive if the council is involved, because sooner or later it involves the council. So that's one of the reasons that the council, the argument for the council being a strong part of the urban renewal makes sense, because in the end it's a council's decisions, and it's like, who wants to be fighting with urban renewal and whatever if you don't agree? If the city council and urban renewal don't agree, then things start to fall apart, and the feuding starts. And that's the last thing we want in this community, I would think. I think we want more, you use a good word, cohesiveness all the way through, and make certain that all the cards are on the table.
Always available to the public. Always available. I appreciate you serving on the board, the fire district, and showing up tonight. That's awesome. Wish there was more people like you.
You know, I think the idea of the 5 and 5, like the budget committee, is a good idea. But again, it goes back to the city council and the fire district. We appoint the people on that budget committee, the citizens at large. So it still comes down to that, you know, we get to choose, you get to choose, you know. But anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and thank you again.
Thank you. And you're right. I mean, councils change all the time too, so you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. Any other public comments? I knew you weren't here just for your pleasure.
Al Peterson, 101 St. Helens Street. I'm going to support Mr. Kreutzer's proposal, and I agree with Jenny Carlson on the matter. And I want to iterate that discussion during the urban renewal setup meetings that occurred over the last year and a half. Those points were made several times. This is not the first time that this point has been made. And there's any number of ways that you could structure it. You could structure it where I don't know how many districts there are, 10 or 11 or whatever they are. You could structure it where two of Mr. Kreutzer's proposals were 2 members from the special districts, and those would be rotating from those various special districts, either yearly or bi-yearly or whatever. And then, you know, then the citizen input, you could pick somebody or whatever. But I think you need to be sensitive to the perception that these special districts have given up part of their budget for this effort. And even though, in theory, you all are the intakers of public comment and sentiment, if you don't have someone on that kind of a board and public opinion starts to change and they start to feel that you're not listening, you're going to have a problem. So I think that, you should strongly consider whatever method of getting these folks onto this board, because you will have buy-in, much more so than I'm in disagreement with Councillor Morton's I don't know the right term, but the way of describing that you would end up having conflict because
You're
well,
misunderstanding.
well, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding or not, but that's the way that's the way I heard, is if you end up with people on this board and then all of a sudden you end up with conflict between these boards, well, they have a voting voice on the board, and their voice is taken in not only by their discussion but by their actual vote. So they have a vote on the board. They can then not claim that you weren't listening because they have a vote. But no use debating that. The question I have, and maybe it's going to be discussed by Mr. Walsh in his administrator's report, is really, to me, you know, what's been going on. I understand you've been tweaking the boundary and that sort of thing. And in theory, I think, as of November, when I paid my taxes, in theory, you should have been receiving funds. So, what's been going on, and what's the update on that? What's the update on the plans if you're going to start prioritizing projects? What are those? And, let's start making those decisions so that when you do have the money, you can start implementing those projects, so that you're not just waiting until a certain time and then all of a sudden you do end up with all this money and then you're in a big hurry to get stuff done. So I hope that is what Mr. Walsh is going to talk about. But I think that, it's been a year since your last meeting. I'm a little disappointed in that. You need to start having more regular meetings and get moving. So thanks.
Thank you.
I think so.
I just want to back up on one of the things that you said about monetary involvement with people. The council is the big player in that one. The city is a big player in how much money they will be losing.
Yeah, I remember seeing the budgets. I saw all that. So I am aware of all the contributions,
So
of all the various districts.
Are you in favor of taking the council totally away and having...
I'm not suggesting that.
No. I'm asking you this. Are you in favor of taking the council out of it and having just an urban renewal agency that has no council representation? Are you in favor of that?
Well, this is no.
Okay.
I'm not pitching that. So
I know.
I'm not exactly.
I just want to know if that's where you're going.
No.
Okay.
So I can answer one question. I think I got this. Because we were talking about this a little bit earlier about this the corridor.
Yeah, whatever.
Everything. Yes, that's going on. The money goes in there, but you have to have a certain amount of money in order to leverage a loan.
Yeah,
and it has to show that it can support itself. So we're a long ways away from, at least a couple years out from even having that amount to do something with Al. So.
Well, I understand that, and that was when we talked at the last meeting. It's just that I just feel like you need to start getting all the ducks in a row so that when you do have it, it's ready to go.
Yep.
It's sort of like Obama's shovel-ready projects.
Yeah.
When the money shows up, it's shovel-ready and ready to go.
Yep.
So
It'd be nice if we had a closer to 1,000-foot plan as opposed to a 100,000-foot plan. That's what I mean. Getting it closer to knowing the details of what will come first and what the priorities are. I'm just seconding what you said.
oh, okay.
That's all.
But the other piece to that, though, is as long as I've been on council, every 2 years, our priorities change. So
But
we could get ready for one thing, and it wouldn't be the thing.
Well,
2
I
years
know
from
that.
now.
It doesn't matter, but at least you have something.
Yeah.
You're starting down a path.
Right.
yes.
That path may change.
Yep.
In the interim, that's fine, but at least get started. And,
So the-
the last meeting was
Can you
May
s-
5th.
Can you speak in the mic if you're gonna speak? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, we're just sort of debating, so there's no use.
So I guess so. Yes. So your further your answer a little bit more. Maybe council has been wearing two hats because we are moving that way, feeding with the riverfront corridor with the what was the other street in 2011?
Right. We've had corridor master plans.
Yes. We got those. We've got the branding and wayfinding studies done. We've got little parks that are going to be in place down here. The discussion of the riverfront district went on for a year and a half.
Yeah, but I already know all that because I was involved.
I
in all
know.
that.
So those are the necessary things.
But now
We
we've
are
been
getting our
sitting.
ducks in a row.
So those are the necessary things you
Well,
need when you do get the money.
But we already did
You've
that,
already-
and I've already been involved
You've
in it.
talked
So,
to Pete. You've talked to
so there's
ODOT,
been,
ODOT rail.
since May.
Because right
5th
now,
until today.
right now we're in the process of getting ODOT, CC Rider, all them involved in this next phase, and so that we have easements in place for signage, ODOT rail, out on Millard Road. a lot
Yeah,
of different
I know.
things.
I was involved in that. Too.
Okay, well,
I know that.
so your question was kind of silly then, Al, because I'm answering you with what we're doing. So I didn't know you knew all that. So
Oh, well, yeah, I was involved in all that, but I'm just commenting on the last meeting you had was May 5th.
Which is 8 months ago.
understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
Okay, any more public comment? We have 2 more from the public here. You sure?
Just so you know, this is an urban renewal. It's a different agency. It's not city council, but it's still government. So
You guys-
you still probably
Still
qualify.
counts.
Yeah.
You guys are our future. It's gonna be your town in a couple years.
You want to come up to the mic, please?
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, I'm Sarah Sparks. Hi. The only thing I'd really have anything to say about would have to be the schools and the buildings on the inside. They totally need to be redone. And the bathrooms in there are mainly the A building and the bathrooms, and all the buildings are really, really terrible. And they definitely need to be fixed and stuff. I don't know if anything's being done about it. I heard that they might be redoing it, but I don't know.
They are. Scott Stockwell is your superintendent, and they just passed a bond. And the A buildings and the science rooms, all that is part of that bond. Then plus a new middle school and an alternative school is all part of that plan. They actually got a grant. They reached out, being how they got that bond. They got a grant also for another additional $4 million. So they've got that money available. So.
Urban Renewal can provide safe passage for you and your friends to and from school, however. And I think those are on the drawing board.
So the other point is we do have a youth city council here, which are more than welcome to
Good
come
point,
and join.
Keith. Good point.
And we have talked about those things in that before. The problem is we're kind of totally different than the schools, but I've tried to talk them into going to the school board, and I would say I'd even back them at the board meetings to talk about those things. So we do talk about a lot of school issues because that's what they're involved with right now.
But city council and school board are 2 different bodies.
Right.
And it's the school board that.
So my
You're
daughter.
more than welcome though to
My
come.
daughter is a
Sure.
freshman and my son is a senior, and I've been in those bathrooms recently and they have not changed a bit.
The ceiling panels are like falling out, and a couple of the bathrooms don't even have doors,
Right.
like the stalls.
Yep.
So it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Well, this is good for the public to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we got everybody. Okay. Discussion items. Resolution adopting bylaws. I think we have some draft bylaws in here.
Yeah, these are the bylaws that we've worked through in council meeting, and we had some drafts. We've refined them with your comments, sent them out for legal opinion, and there's other than some very almost Scribner level comments. It's reflects the spirit of your changes there.
Although it states we don't have to have bylaws, but they recommend we have bylaws.
We're an agency that can change the bylaws at any time, just by a vote.
Right.
And so
We can do amendments anytime.
with that, I move that we adopt resolution number UR 00 adopting bylaws for urban renewal agency of the city of St. Helens.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Kidding? Oh,
What?
Need more time?
I was acting like I was running it.
He
I know that people don't like to be hemmed into a box, but there's no the statement on how often we'll meet for people in the community that are following urban renewal. If we don't have scheduled meetings ever, how do they know when we're going to meet? How does they is there predictable as like are we going to meet quarterly? We're going to meet every 6 months, or is there any predictability to this for the community?
Let's put that on the agenda, our next agenda.
'Cause
Scheduled meetings.
there's nothing stipulated, and you know I hear Al's comment. It's like we met in May,
Yeah.
and we all had to look at the minutes to remember what we even happened. If we're meeting that seldom, you know, we need to keep it fresh in our minds. So at least us are sharp. Whether it's just us for the time being, we should be sharp, even if it's a short meeting before a work session or between a work session and a regular session, to just be on the same page and keep that urban renewal fresh in our minds.
Seems like even early on, we should be meeting at least quarterly.
Yeah, just touch base and the community knows what's going on, so it isn't like what happened to urban renewal. So if we can have that on the agenda for
I
next
think
time.
I just wanted to add it does take tremendous staff time to prepare for meetings, and so meeting for the sake of meeting, I mean, that's not always a recommended course of action as well. I understand that you
Not
want
2 weeks,
predictability.
not months, but more than
Yeah.
once a year.
I mean, there should be agenda items to discuss. I
Right.
agree.
So
Right.
make sure on our next agenda that we have discussion of members and then also discussion of meeting times. And they stay on the agenda at the bottom of agendas until they're fulfilled. Thank you.
A vote.
Oh, right. So we have a motion and a second, and we've discussed. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Unanimous. Resolution UR 002, minor amendment to the urban renewal plan.
Okay, so what this is that our urban renewal plan, once we adopted it, went over to the county, and they closely scrutinized our lot boundaries in the perimeter, and you know they were drawn pretty much along the zoning lines, and that some of those zoning lines have properties that are in the district and out of district, and so they wanted to draw a boundary that took in whole parcels rather than trying to figure out the taxes of doing partial appropriations. So it's less than 0.5%, I think, is the total boundary change net. You know, some are in, some are out. I'm
So
looking
it's
at Ken
zigzaggy
to
now?
go close with this effort.
So yeah, and I would just like to elaborate. So when the boundary was originally created, you know, we were working with Eco Northwest, and they had a best practices for how to create the boundary. And so when we were following street networks where we know we had projects, they said go about 3 to 4 blocks out approximately. And so that's what we did with GIS, and that didn't always follow tax boundary lines. And so we got to the adoption phase, and the county let us know that people would be receiving multiple tax bills in the mail for the same property because of that. And so it wasn't a matter of changing their taxes, but it was just a hassle. We didn't want to create a hassle with the agency. So we decided, okay, let's correct this by adding some and subtracting others. And so this wasn't a land grab, or we weren't trying to increase the boundary secretly. It was purely trying to make it easier for citizens in tax bills season. And I actually just got off the phone with the county checking that this boundary was meeting their needs, and they clarified that it solves the problem. So it's a purely administrative fix to, you know, getting 2 tax bills in the mail.
Yeah.
Super.
And we don't have to have public input for this?
So, and it says this in the resolution, so minor amendments are allowed if the boundary changes are less than 1% of your agency area. And this is 0.4%. And one of the exhibits actually shows, just to bring that up and clarify. Here's the new boundary.
Or we're missing out on 0.5 then. We could grab real easy.
Yeah, so I think this is worth looking at. It shows how minor these changes are. The green is additions, the red is subtractions. And then, before I move on, I'll let
You
you
have
look.
a map in here too, if you want hardcover copy.
And then the next exhibit shows the percentage change in area. So there's 6 proposed removals and 22 additions, but the area of square footage is totals less than 0.5%. So
Is that
So-
maybe answer one of your questions, Al? The tweaking a little bit of the properties? Yeah, I already knew that. Okay.
So there's 9 pages here, Al. Could you condense this for me in about 3 lines or something like that? Well, that's the legal description. I know. That's what I'm talking about.
That'd be no.
I move we approve resolution UR 002.
Second?
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to approve resolution UR 02. Any more discussion? So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Administrator report. Would that be John?
By your bylaws, that would be correct. So we're kind of at the infancy of this agency, not really in time, but since we've had a plan and
You got 16 minutes, so you got to burn the whole
financially,
thing.
from a financial perspective, we're very much in the infancy. We're in this build-up phase of generating revenue to the district, so that we can take and leverage those monies, and it has to be a consistent revenue stream before we can leverage any money to do investments. And aside from the city opting to loan money to the district to get it going, we're basically waiting for the increment to come in. Not to say that we haven't done a lot of work, because we have. A number of agencies that are created, it's more of this conceptual idea, and it's not very well refined, and they go off and they create this agency, and then they start off on a lot of the planning work that we've already done. We have fairly sophisticated level planning work, but a plan is just a plan, and the plans, as they get more sophisticated and refined, they move into the design, the engineering, and then kind of pre-construction kind of level work. And there will be opportunities as we get either through leveraging investments or just outright spending some of that money on design and engineering to move some of these things or programs like a facade improvement or something like that to seed that effort to get out and do some work. And I very much agree. There's some models out there, especially the facade program, where cities, and Sandy's just a fantastic example of the work that they've done and how they've managed to do that. Hopefully we can talk about as this goes on. But the city of Sandy. Other than that, we're in the good position to have all this body of planning work. We're continuing to do planning work. That hasn't been funded by the agency. So we've done a lot of work and managed to leverage a lot of outside resources to get this done. The number of EPA and state PGM grants and business organs assistance and others, and just, I think we're well positioned to start. And I think discussing the frequency of meetings is important, and the formation of the representation that's can all play well into how the success of the Urban Renewal Agency goes forward in the future. I can't talk 12
Okay,
minutes.
we're going to have a council report. Any questions from the council? Susan?
No.
Doug?
Ask.
Yes. I kind of think that in taking a vote, that we should do that individually. And like I've always thought in the council as well, that whenever we take a vote, we should clarify why we voted yes or no, yay or nay. And that way that tells our citizens how each of us voted and why. I would like to see that as a precedent as when we vote, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll put that on our next agenda. Rick, or you got anything more, Doug?
No.
Rick?
I'm just relaxing right now.
Doesn't that feel good?
Well, we got to burn 13 more minutes.
He's got to stretch it out now to make this go.
He's gonna filibuster.
Oh, I don't have anything, Keith.
Jenny?
I've got nothing.
Nothing.
Thank I gave you enough grief.
Oh, no. So, in that, we'll, our next meeting, since April 1st is on a Sunday, we're going to assign it to April 18th at 6 o'clock before that meeting, council meeting.
You don't want to do it on April Fool's Day?
It's a Sunday. I do, but it's a Sunday. I told you that. So if we can set our next meeting for April 18th.
And notices for this
Does that
meeting
not
go out
work right?
just in the newspaper? How do people know that this meeting is happening? That
Well,
urban renewal
For
is
this
happening?
meeting, we took the same notification as the planning commission. So we notified a week in advance. City council is usually the Friday before a Wednesday meeting. In this, we took a week. We posted it online on our schedule. We can talk about if we want to go above and beyond that in the future. But
Can we
this-
send an email to the chair of each district board, special district boards?
I think we can discuss that when we talk about the agency makeup. I mean, if the agency is going to include other representing members, then that would be excessive. But I think it just should all be wrapped into a public participation plan if you want
Correct.
to talk about how to involve the public with the agency.
I also have another recommendation. And I think hopefully we set kind of a precedent here of when issues come up from our community that we don't deliberate on the spot and make a decision, that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting so that we have time to do the research and make the appropriate decisions and make the good decisions, that we have time to do that. I think that that's important, and I think
Between
that
you and
what we
I, we've
heard-
already
what we heard-
done that anyway. usually,
Yeah,
so,
well, what
yeah.
we heard tonight were two really good proposals, and I think that putting those on the agenda for our next meeting is appropriate. Trying to decide those things that when they come up, a lot of times you make the right decisions, but a lot of times you make the wrong decisions. You don't have a lot of times you're shooting from your hip. So I'd like to see that as a precedent, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, duly noted. Anything else?
Here, Keith.
I can go right here. Meeting adjourned.